what are you guys excited most about the business climate in Latin America right now?
What I value most about the current business climate in Latin America is that the region is no longer seen merely as a kind of cost center. Today, entrepreneurs, corporate leaders, decision makers are turning their attention back to LATAM more with a strategic point of view. In particular, the business environment in Costa Rica, which is my home country, stands out for several key factors that make it an attractive destination for investment and business development. And I want to refer to the main of them. First of all, our political and social stability. Costa Rica has one of the oldest, or the oldest, democratic system in LATAM. It is a country with no army, and it has institutional stability. So it, of course, provides a secure and predictable environment for doing business. Now, if we talk about strategic location, Costa Rica is positioned in the heart of the Americas. So the country offers excellent connectivity to the North and South America, as well as Europe. One of my favorite factors that I love to talk about this characteristic of my country, Costa Rica, is the highly skilled workforce. Costa Rica has a young and well-educated and bilingual labor force, which is an asset especially valuable for technology and services industries. Talking about preferential market access, Costa Rica has around 18 free trade agreements, which of course offers preferential access to some of the world's most important economies, as USA and China, for example. The diversified economy, my country has transitioned from an economy based on agricultural to high-value sectors such as advanced manufacturing or business services, while maintaining, of course, strength their traditional sectors as tourism and agriculture. And last but not least, the green credentials. I don't know if you know it, but in my country, 98% of its electricity is generated or comes from renewable sources. So that makes it a destination for corporations or companies that want to align operations to ESG, which is important nowadays.
Latin America is great, and I think I'm from Chile originally, living here, but we have the capacity to adapt to crisis, political, different kind of political side. It's like we are very resilient, I think. And what excites me more is now the world is changing so fast. And what we have in Latin America is that we are able to navigate through all the things that are happening. And sometimes when you hear, even here in the US, it's like, oh no, what is happening with the world? But in Latin America, we keep going. And it doesn't matter because we are used to live with crisis and chaos and everything. So what excites me more about is the opportunities that we could have in these crisis moments of the world, especially about talent. We have very good talent in Latin America. I think that we have a great opportunity, and for all of you here doing business from Latin America to here or from here to Latin America, we have a great opportunity with new technologies. And hearing the last panel, especially about what is happening with critical thinking abilities, because now it's true that technology could replace a lot of tasks that people are doing, but not the way that people think. And now we have, especially with technological companies to grow up in Latin America, even to pilot, because when you come here, everything is huge and everything is big. But then if you have a new idea or you are trying a business, actually, you can try in Latin America, like in one country, in a controlled ambient, and then you can scale up the business also. And the last thing is about all the potentials that the region actually have, and how we are going to navigate to the futures.
I've been working with tech companies pretty much for all of my professional life. And I can say now that it's a moment of opportunity, I agree. A lot of tension, instability, and uncertainty. But in many ways, I think the resilience of Latin America and the fact that we're able to adapt brings a lot of opportunities. We were having a chat last night at the cocktail and speaking to a few of our colleagues today. And we all share a vision that, yes, it might seem threatening, and it certainly is, especially if you're sitting on the business side, having to make decisions whether to invest dollars and where to invest and which country to look to. But regardless of the countries, and obviously I have a bias for Mexico, being based in Mexico and knowing the country so well. But I do believe that there's many things to be optimistic about. Talent is one, but it's not the only one. We touch upon natural resources, that's another one. But there's granular opportunities that I will talk about when we have the chance to discuss about Mexico that I think make it a very good time to look down to Latin America as a country, as a region, I'm sorry.
So I think we can get right into that. When I talked to people last night, what's going on, right? Very open-ended questions. H-1Bs, without a doubt, were mentioned within the first sentence or two to every person I talked to. A lot of people are seeing it as an opportunity. How do you view it?
Well, again, I think it's a golden opportunity. I think there might be some skepticism as to how the Latin American countries can adapt to the opportunity. But let me just touch upon Mexico just briefly. Obviously, we all know that it's, the proximity of the country next to the U.S. makes it a natural choice to relocate H-1B talent to a country that can, relatively easily accommodate the talent. Just yesterday, there was a large announcement by Salesforce of a $1 billion investment in Mexico for a global capability center. And not long ago, Amazon made a similar announcement for Google, Mercado Libre. So there's certainly the infrastructure. There's one component, for example, that could tag right into this called the RESICO tax regime, which is kind of a tax haven of sorts that allows individuals earning up to $190,000 per year at a very convenient 2.5% income tax rate. There's very few regimes in the world that can offer that. So if you guys have H-1B talent that needs to be relocated somewhere, I believe that many of those individuals would be delighted to work from Merida, Yucatan in Mexico, Querétaro, Mexico City, Monterrey, and only pay 2.5% on their taxes. And really, if they're making over $120,000 a year, the quality of life in Mexico will be very, very high.
Labor laws and all of that, they definitely play a role in compliance and regulations. What are you seeing as far as trends go with that?
Exactly. What I'm seeing, and this is important about Latin America, because it seems like it's like one big country, but every country is very different. And what is happening in terms of regulation, the crime is rising, especially organized crime, and also like the things that US and Europe are asking to the country. So regulations are increasing a lot, not just in labor, but in kind of anti-corruption compliance, in terms of cybersecurity, data privacy. So there are a lot of new regulations. And I think that one of the big problems is that every country is doing their own regulation. We are not thinking like together. It's like every country, oh, this is a good idea. Okay, one. So what I have been seeing, especially working with multinational companies, is that they need to adapt their compliance programs from one country to another, because maybe the base is exactly the same, but then everyone asks for different tiny things that they need to do. So it's completely ridiculous, because if they need to have like one policy for one country, one policy for another country. So I think that is a talent for the region, or doing business in the region. And also the importance of fair parties. And especially for many of you, I think that is very important, because probably you are the third party of another company. And now they are putting on, especially all the regulations, like more pressure on that. It's like, okay, you could have a good compliance programs, but your third party and even fourth party also need to have it. And mostly of you, because that is happening to me also, are receiving like a lot of questionnaires and a lot of assessment from your clients to see if you comply with the different regulations. So I think that a good thing or an opportunity for that is start since the beginning, and doesn't matter the size of the company, start doing the things the right way and having or in compliance, and especially generating the evidence that you are doing everything right, because in one point or another, someone is going to ask you if you are doing it. So I think that is a good opportunity, even to a competitive advantage in the future with your competitors. And in terms of the future of this, I think that now we are facing like this moment with all the new regulations, but in the future is going to be the standard. So, and you were asking me before about an advice to create compliance programs. I think, or my advice, if you're starting with a compliance program, start it first, make it global, maybe with the little adaptations, but not one compliance program for every country. And the second thing is start since you are growing up. It's like when you're starting off, if you're small, you don't have too many risks, so you can have everything in order. But then if you start growing, start with your compliance also. And that means like having all your processes brighten, and then be sure that you are complying with your own processes. Because what happens when you are growing up is that sometimes you have everything perfect, but then you change the process, you never update the process, and then you are not doing what you said you are doing, and that could be a problem in the future.
Is the problem with is the problem with corruption and the lack of compliance that we see in Latin America and the flavor that we see of it with businesses, does the solution come from the government or the private sector?
No, it comes from the private sector. Because the governments try to solve, and if there is like a new corruption scandal or a new scandal, and then the government think that they should solve everything with a new law. So with every scandal, we have a new law, and then they said, now we are going to solve. And even with the elections, this is like or last year, and now like elections years in Latin America, and every candidate and they said, we are going to stop corruption, and everyone said the same, and every year is worse. So I think that the very solution for the corruption problem comes from the private sector and saying no, and that is a talent also in Latin America, because we have a lot of permissiology or bureaucratics and different things that sometimes I think that they are creating for more corruption. It's like if you need to, I don't know, too many approvals to get a project done, so you have too many people that you can pay to take it done. So if the solutions should come from the private sector, and especially saying no. I think that is the first, or my first advice.
Lucia, when you're dealing with companies that are looking to come into Costa Rica, what are some of the things that they're worried about? And what are some of the things that incentivize operations to come to the country?
When you're thinking about setting up a business in Costa Rica or in Latam, you have to know, first of all, that the region is absolutely different and you cannot generalize. you have to take into account, for example, the legal certainty, or that some person in one of the panels asked about predictability, and that's in the case of Costa Rica is one of the positive things that we have. We have reasonable predictability, which is highly important mainly for foreign investment, because companies or entrepreneurs needs that kind of guidance to know what is in the law and what are the authorities interpreting about the law. In Costa Rica, we manage that, for example, with some platforms, legal platforms, where the taxpayers or the companies in general can ask or consult those interpretations that authorities are given to the law. So that's very well used by the companies.
When a startup or even an established operation is looking to move into Latin America, start up an operation, where do they mess up? Where do they go wrong? What do people need to know?
Well, I think the first one is engage with local teams that have done it before. I cannot stress this enough. I think it's important everywhere in the world that you engage with serious counterparts and serious groups. Just as we discussed, organized crime exists also at that level. So groups trying to take advantage of investors and foreign companies exist everywhere. We have seen it, and it's I don't want to say easy to fall prey of misintended individuals or groups or companies. I think that's one piece of advice that I would suggest, and we've seen it happen in the past.
And Susana?
Adding to add, building in what Sergio said, it's about the relations. And Latin America is a continent of relations. Here, and it was difficult for me even at the beginning that everyone was like straight, like, okay, do you want this? What do you want about this meeting? And straight to the meeting. We are more about doing business around dinner tables or about food. Always is about food also. But I think that the relations are very important, and because of that, what Sergio was saying about local team is very important also. So that is my first advice. The other thing about the different cultures of different countries. So knowing exactly what your target is and how are you going to adapt your product or your service to that country. Because I have seen a lot of companies that fail because they go exactly with offering what they had success maybe here in the US or in Europe or in other countries, and then they try to replicate the business model, the exact business model, and sometimes it's not the same, a lot of times. And the other one is about logistics, because everything seems like too close, but in terms of mountains, it's not too easy actually to transitate from one country to another. And even with organized crime, the security issue is an issue also that you need to add to the equation. And I think that what it was, we were talking here also during the morning, but all the business need to add uncertainty to the business model. And I think that applies 100% to Latin America. It's always going to be uncertainty.
Non-resident income is one of the things that you have to be very carefully. In case of Costa Rica, if you are non-resident, if you are constituted in Costa Rica and buy some services from another country, you have to pay if that service is rendered or performed inside the territory. And that is subject to withholding tax, which could be even 30% withholding tax. So just my main advice is look to the for the advisor, okay? Because that topic of withholding tax is mainly is one of the most confused topics for companies and even for the authorities. That platform that I talked in the beginning is full of jurisprudence and different criteria that even the authorities change criteria from 1 year to another year in terms of withholding tax. So it's very important, very, very important that when you make transactions that are subject to withholding tax, look for the advice of the expert about that, because it changes a lot.